Ladies and gentlemen, for this part of the all discussing from data to demand, making AI work in real African market is on this side. The topic again is from data to demand, making AI work in real in real African markets. And to be on this side as a marketing manager, Friesland Campania Wamco Nigeria PLC, Chioma Otis Igwe. Please put your hands together for Chioma. Also, we have the Chief Executive Officer, Excite Panacea Limited, Godson Nkeokelonye. Please put your hands together. And also the co-founder of Tingtel, Simpa Yekini. Please put your hands together for Simpa Yekini. And also, ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Executive Officer of Dochase AdX, Chibuike, Njoku, Goodnews, MBA. Please put your hands together. And also, we have the Managing Director of Ilorin Innovation Hub, Temi Kolawole. And lastly, we have the founder and CEO, Digital Evolutions Limited, Scott Energy, and that's our moderator for this part of the all. Please put your hands together and celebrate them. For the other side of the all.
So thank you. So this is the first side of the hall, and they're talking about data. If that's what excites you and that's what you want to listen to right now, they'll be handing over headsets to you and walk to the other program. Thank you. But if you want to talk about data and all that, you can take the blue headset. Once again, thank you very much. If you are interested in listening for the next 1 hour about data, how data demand makes AI work in real African markets, you need to come to this part of the hall where we have Chioma, you have Godson, you have Simpa, you have Temi Kolawole, you have Chibuike, and you have Scott as the moderator. Your headset is blue, and we're talking a lot around how data to demand makes AI work in real African markets.
That place feels like the AI version of this room because it has screen. Yeah, but we enjoy our time here, right? Okay, so are we good to start? Okay. All right. Good afternoon once again. Just to give a bit of protocol in terms of maybe you're not sure of what we are discussing, so I'll just quite quietly just give you that expo. And basically, I think all we've been talking about here this afternoon or whole day is about AI marketing, brands, consumer industry, everything around that, right? And to an extent, just for me, when you hear these things continually, it can get boring. So I want to put some form of disclaimer there. That maybe some of the things you heard before, you will still hear it here. But one thing I would say, or I employ anyone in the audience to do, just pick one thing, one particular thing, and that's what is called insight. Something that somebody will say on this stage, all through the event.
Hello. Okay.
And say,
all right. Cool.
With this thing, I want to go and make use of it.
If you can hear
so
me, give
I
it a
can
thumbs
better
up.
my business, my career, whatever it is you're doing. So don't try to consume all the information that is coming. Yes.
Issue or addressing a challenge or developing a new product or whatever the case may be, it's important that there's a balance.
Okay, so I think the curiosity now is you have these insights, right? Is it the same with what AI vendors are giving to you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So the thing with AI is it helps. It gives you the idea. It gives you the concept. So let's say you want to develop a new creative or you're launching a new product. So AI is able to help you generate the campaign concept or the creative concept, or even to test creatives to see which one would actually fit the need or relates more to your target audience, So it gives you that, but that's where the human trait now plays a role. The human trait now helps you understand, okay, this creative, would it apply or would it be a perfect fit to the consumer behavior? Or this creative, is it ethical, in the environment, or which AI can give you, right? this creative really fits, in the southwest and the northern regions. Yeah. So you have to also apply that human truth that you wouldn't get from AI. So we should all understand that AI has its benefits, right, and also has its threats. It depends on how it is used and how it is developed. Yeah.
So I think what you're telling us now is this, that context is very important.
Absolutely.
The AI context, especially context where it's trained on Western data, can be very different to what we actually see. So it's very important that we put context no matter what we're doing. That's very interesting. We're going to do something after every answer. Please, let's clap for them. That way we know you're still there. All right, thank you. Okay. Good, we hear you. Thank you. So Temi, next question would be to Temi. Gonna shuffle this mic around a lot. All right. Apologies. Let's get on with it. So the advantage of you being on this panel is it's easy when we talk about data. We center it on Lagos. We center it on the fact that Lagos is the tech hub of Nigeria. We just assume that yes, if it's like this in Lagos, it's like this everywhere. But you have your innovation hub in Ilorin. So you have a perspective that is peculiar to this conversation. So my question to you is, what does the demand actually look like? And it's not Lagos centered, it's not Lagos centric. What does the demand actually look like, both from the tier 2 and tier 3 consumer behavior, and how is AI relating to that? Because in the other conversation, someone said something about how Sedans is able to produce stories for you. But when you really look at it, it's very related to the information from Lagos, out of Lagos. Is that your reality as well, or is there something different?
All right. Thank you. What I will say is yes. Our the Ilorin Innovation Hub is in Ilorin, physically located in Ilorin. It's an initiative of the Kwara State government, but it's actually being run by a company based right here in Lagos. So our operations partner is IHS Towers. Okay. They're headquartered right here in Lagos, and they're a multinational telecoms infrastructure company that's one of the biggest all over the world, but started right here in Nigeria. So what I would say is the truth of the matter is that because of how the internet has blurred boundaries, there's not too much of a difference between the demand between what's going on here in Lagos and other parts of the country, and I'll explain this. We're all on social media. Some of the very big pages that you follow, some of the highest followed blogs that you follow on social media are actually run by people not based in Lagos, and there's not really any way to tell unless maybe you know the person that's actually behind it and you know where they're based. Social media and the internet has kind of blurred the boundaries right now. So we have in Ilorin a lot of software engineers that work for companies right here in Lagos remotely. But obviously because of the rising cost of living here and the affordable cost of living there, they would prefer to live there and live like kings and queens, and still earn the same salaries that people in Lagos earn. And that's the same with jobs abroad. We have people working remotely there for companies abroad. Now, with regards to the demand, I would say the one thing that I can say about somewhere like Ilorin is that it's sort of like a melting pot. So it has a mix of several cultures. There's the southern culture, a bit of the northern culture, and we also, funny enough, also have a very huge southeastern population too, who are more of the traders, the business people in somewhere like Ilorin. So it's a good melting pot, and they joke and say whoever wins elections in Kwara usually wins the entire country, which has actually been proven, and it happens. So it's a good sample size of what Nigeria is like outside of Lagos, because yes, once again we see Lagos as where everything happens, but there's a lot of people, a large part of the Nigerian population that don't live in Lagos, and where we are is a sample of I would say, a random sample or a good enough balanced sample of what the rest of Nigeria is like. And the demand is high, is crazy. What I would say is it's a lot more focused demand, because in places like that, a lot of the people in our ecosystem there and a lot of the AI practitioners there didn't really think they would get the type of opportunities that we're bringing to them at the moment. They've always been used to physically having to come down to Lagos to attend events like this. And other bigger cities, but now we're bringing the opportunities to them, and we have some very huge. We had a huge AI summit in Ilorin last year. We had speakers from all over the country and even all over the world join virtually and remotely. So the demand is, what I would say, not lower than what you would find in Lagos. It's pretty much balanced, and we can say that what's going on in Lagos is pretty much going on in other African cities too.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes.
I'm curious for a quick follow up. Is that to say this is highly influenced by the characteristics of Lagos customer behavior, or is this just the opening of the internet? Because you said the internet kind of blurred the line.
Well, Lagos customer behavior is very much unique to Lagos in a way. And even within Lagos, I think customer behavior on the island is different from customer behavior on the mainland. I'm sure we all know that. But it's not too far. Yes, there's some brands that have nationwide coverage, some have regional coverage, and because of the demand in different areas, you see some brands not go all over and stick to certain parts of the country. But I would say that overall, there might be unique differences in different areas that would not be able, you can't just copy and paste what works in Lagos elsewhere. You have to always look at the exact local environment you're in. And with regards to AI too, I think what has been trained on AI in big cities also has like an average similar generation of content for other cities. So what you would, if you prompt something about what you want to look like a big city, a big African city, it might look like Lagos. But if you decide to prompt something that looks like a smaller town or a rural area, can look like a combination of Enugu, Ibadan, Jos, which also have several similarities. So I think what we would really want to scale AI and the demand and the what it's like is you have the urban, you have the smaller cities, and then you have the rural type of settings that works across all AI contexts.
All right. Thank you very much. Please, round of applause again. This is how I'll be checking if you're all awake. Okay. All right. So, Godson, talking about data, you have an AI supply chain dashboard that has been built specifically for FMCG. And the curiosity now is we say we don't have enough data, but then you are actually generating this insight. You're seeing this. My question is this true? Is it that we don't have enough data from the Nigerian and African perspective? From what you're saying, we don't have enough to make good decisions. We don't have enough to drive demand. Is this really true?
Thank you very much. That's a very, very dodgy question to ask. I guess for me is, would you ever have enough data? The answer is no. Nobody would ever have enough data. So, but before I answer that question, it's important to set the background. So, I work in supply chain tech and go-to-market technology, and I have seen data play out in different verticals, right? The sound bites I've been hearing since I came in here is that of push, 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 right? How do I train my communication? How do I, and I heard very little about feedback. What are you doing to get back from these customers? Especially if you find yourself in the FMCG space, right, where the product itself is fast. There's not enough time for hyper personalization, which is something that works better in the service industry. So it has to be context specific. Now, in the supply chain space, it's broken down into two broad parts, which is the demand side and the supply side. AI plays different roles on either sides of this divide. So for me and within our business, we have a concept where we don't say AI, we say augmented reality, which means the artificial intelligence on the one hand and human intelligence shaking hands to give you augmented intelligence, right? So the data that you have, what do you know about it? how quickly do you know it, and what do you do with what you know? It's more important than the size of the data. I don't know if that answers your question.
Um, you know, we said we will not do as bad as Maguire. I'm believing we all got the answer, right? Did we all get the answer? I'm seeing people shake their head. No. Do we have enough data? Do we need enough data?
So, like I said, you will never have enough data, but there's a lot of opportunity for deepening the data in Africa, because a lot of the things that we do is typically offline, right? So we can deepen the data. A lot of what we call data is data that is stored in a way that you can relate with. We have a lot of data sitting in silos where we're not using them. So the real question is, are we using what we have? Yes, we need more. The ones we have, are they speaking to each other? If I'm in marketing, what do I know about demand planning, and how does that help my my marketing communication? What do I know about goods in transit and movement? When a particular product stops selling in Ilorin, is it because the distributor there has repurposed his capital, or the people of Ilorin have moved brand? So there's a lot of relativity that happens even with the data we have right now that we're not paying attention to. So, and that's the lens I'd like us to look at it from.
Please let's give him a round of applause. Oh, so there's something I typically tell my own clients. I will tell them whenever they go, the data says this, the data says this. I will tell them it's funny because you could be data rich, but insights poor. Insights is critical, right? You could see the spreadsheets, you could see what the information is saying. Well, how are you tying it to what's happening in the actual scenery? How are you tying that? I think that's exactly what you're saying. Please, another round of applause for. So Chibuike, I'm coming hard for your own market specifically because you have a very large daily consumption base. Over 5 million people daily use your product, right? And it's funny because with that large amount of people, and we know that information is not as the data we have is not as formal, right? We don't really lock addresses. When we move houses here, do you go and file somewhere? Hello, government, I am changing my house, right? So which means you can shift address, and you might not know your client's shift address. You might not know your client's change phone number. You might not know. They make these changes on a daily basis that you do not control. So my question is, with the inconsistency in information, the inconsistency in even internet penetration, what are you actually using for your signal? And if it's an inside secret, we all like to hear it.
Thank you so much. I think this is building on the last question you asked him, where you said, "Do you have enough data?" Um, I have an opinion about that, and that is the fact that we have a present reality that is a building block. So if you're looking to have enough data, no, you just have an African unique reality, and that reality is what is built on top of it. Now, on the signals, I would say still on the unique reality of the present market. We have a market that is highly fragmented. We have a market that is quote unquote disorganized, informal. And that means for us as a business, whatever we are building for this market, we take note of the fact that whatever data you are getting has to have two-factor authentication. Like you get it online, you get it offline, you validate it. Then you cut it across, you sieve and sieve and sieve to make sense out of it. Now, the signals that we use are somehow proprietary, but heavily purified, and some of them come from signals on the OEMs, signals from telco data, signals that are highly anonymous and anonymized. I'm sure by the time you're browsing a site, is asking you to agree to the cookies, and cookies are one of the things we also use. So those data collectively build into the inputs that our AI uses in both targeting, deciding what to show to you as you're browsing the internet, deciding also what brands that you like and all that. So they're quite interesting, but it's been very, very clean.
So I'm curious to follow that up now. Speaking of its cleanness, especially from where it's coming from, right? I don't know how many of you were 21 on Facebook when you were actually 14. How many of you did that? Like your age was 21, but you were 14 in real life, right? And so that's another thing. So even with cookies, we already, especially in this part of the world, we like to lie, but it's not like a bad way. Like we lie like I live here, but you live there, right? And we love VPNs, meaning we live everywhere we feel like per day. The day that network is on this side, you live there. The day the network is on this side, you live there, right? So now when you're getting this insight from these sources, where the people who you're even getting the insights from are not necessarily consistent, will you categorize that data as clean?
Okay, I think you're trying to pull out something, but let me give you insight into it. One, you have probably 3 emails. You use a
Like
phone.
30.
Okay. You use a phone. You have a different name on X. You have a different name on Facebook. You have a different name on Instagram. You have a different name on TikTok. But they all dwell on same device. There's a device ID. We don't necessarily need to tell you that those your device communicate. But you consume me for this. There have been people that said you had a conversation with somebody, your phone was there, and then next minute you start seeing advert that's related to your to that thing you talked about. Now, this data are collected from different sources, and every human being has about 54,000 data points, and those data points include your name, so many things about you. Those things are cleaned up and cleaned up and cleaned up. Now, a few of them, we just need about 50 to 60% of them to make a decision on you. And that gives us an insight of who you are, what you do, and all the things that we need to get about each human being. Then we tie it to what products and brands that are useful to you. And most of us use 2, 3 phones. Those things are still unique.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So you're not waiting for the data to be 100%. If you get 50%, it's enough to
Africa,
make it.
Africa is just unique.
It's
It's never
just
going to
unique
be
like that.
100%.
Please, can we give him a round of applause? That's brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Simpa, coming to you now. So you do 3 billion in transactions and over 700 users. I think that's amazing. That's really amazing. And the fact that you are targeting the unbanked people, which is where I think real events are happening on a day-to-day basis. All right. The question now is, with the insights you get from these unbanked people, the transactions that are happening every day, and simple transactions like airtime recharge. So that's how you determine spending power. People who are buying 100 naira airtime against people who are doing 10,000, people who are doing prepaid against postpaid. With this insight you're getting, what is the difference that you see from that data and what market research insights looks like? Because there's an overall market research about this is what these people are like, this is how they consume. What's your own data telling you that is either the same or different?
Thank you. Well, it's slightly different. So to give some insights to what we do at Tingtel, um, the oldest digital wallet that Africans have been exposed to is actually your SIM card. Everybody knows how airtime works. You buy airtime, you use it to call, you see how your wallet is depleted. So that technically is the oldest digital assets you've ever had in Africa, right? So what we do as Tingtel is that we turn that digital assets into a vehicle to have financial access. So it's like you're in areas where a lot of people are unbanked. They can convert their airtime to cash and then have access to financial services. We see people that send airtime to their relatives in up north or different areas, and then they can also convert it into cash and have access to financial services. Right now, we are catering for about 1.4 million users across Nigeria. So, like, to answer your question, is the data different? Yes, I would say to a large extent it's significantly different. It's like a lot of times with AI and like market research, everybody's focused on what's sexy, which is the people that are fully banked, right? People who operate bank accounts, they want to know your credit score. They want to know if you're what's giving a loan on any of that. However, we have a lot of people who are excluded, not just in Nigeria, but also in Africa from all of this because they do not really use the system. So if I give you an example now, somebody somebody sent a message, says, hey, I want to convert my airtime to cash right now, and I want it to come instantly, right? So, and then I checked the amount the guy did. He had done the transaction already, but I looked at the amount. It was 170 naira. So, like, what does you think about it? That what does 170 naira? What do you need it for? It's just 170. It's not going to do anything to you. However, it was a very curious case. So I called him and spoke to him, and it was like he had 800 and something naira in his bank account. He wanted to take out 1,000 from the POS so he could have access to get a meal, right? And that was his last card. And the POS will not allow you to take under 1,000. So he then converts his last airtime, 170, into add to the 800 plus that he had, and then he had like 1,100 naira, and he was now able to withdraw the money from the POS and then have access to it. So typically, like, you would never really see those scenarios play out, and then you see people who also buying pattern for airtime changes. Some people buy 200 naira 5 times a day. They will never buy 1,000 at once. And they do it every single day. They know they consume it, but they'll buy in bits, right? It's a trust thing. You also have people who would convert their airtime to cash at the beginning of the month. Maybe they probably got it from the companies or elsewhere, and then they convert it. So the reality of it is dealing with multiple customers, especially those that are unbanked, gives you much more insights than what typical marketing data would give you. So you can know the period where people get broke a lot. People always assume that people get broke at the end of the month, but we see some patterns where people come and change small amounts at the middle of the month, which is when maybe they get in a bit. So yes, I would say in total, the data is more detailed and slightly different from what typical marketing will tell you.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. I was surprised when you said people get broke at the end of the month. That was because the people I know, they get broke in the middle of the month. Well, okay, that's very interesting. I want to come back to you, Chioma. Um, so I want you to tell us a real story, real event, if you can. All right. Looking at an actual campaign that your company was a part of, and be first of all, what the expectations were, and measure it against what actually happened. There was something he just said about someone changing 170. That's wonderful. Strangely, all right. In your case, where you said, okay, we're going to make this product 200 naira because it's supposed to be affordable, and for some reason that didn't work, and you had to change again. Like a story relating to such an event. Yeah. So the question is more to what were the signals? What was the call? What actually happened against the initial expectation?
Okay. All right. So if I give a real life example, so in my experience in consumer-led categories, we are in the dairy sector, and you find that dairy in Nigeria consumption patterns have declined, right? And Nigerians are spending more on other necessities to stay afloat. Okay, so in families, they buy, one maybe like a 150 grams, and you find like 7 people sharing a tin of milk. So the challenge here was, how do we make milk more accessible to all Nigerians without, affecting the quality, keeping the right quality at the right price so that you can reach the mass. And we were like, okay, we need to have smaller pack sizes. So that's where your pack size and your format plays a role, right? And we're like, okay, let's have smaller pack sizes so that it can a single pack, a single use, right? So one consumer can use a pack per time. You don't have to worry about storage. You don't have to worry about waste, right? And it also fits your pocket size. And we came up with a smaller grammage size, 59 grams. And we were like, okay. At first, it was actually supposed to be 60, 70, right? But then when you now plug in all the other costs that, have to come in, you won't be able to give your consumers that pack size, that price point that, you set out to achieve, a 50 naira, for example, right? And you then have to work backwards to say, okay, what else can I do to ensure that I have an accessible pack size at the right price to our consumers? And so that's where data comes into play a role. Okay, what is competition doing? Okay, what else can I do to ensure that this challenge is being met? And that's how we now introduce the 59 grams, at the right pack, right price, and ensure that it was available across different channels. In Nigeria, you find a lot of consumers go to the open market, but there are also people that shop within the neighborhoods. So you come out from your house and there's a store, there's a tabletop, there's a kiosk. Ensure that the product is actually available and accessible, around the stores, around kiosks, around, even Mishais, right? Those tea cocoa sellers that you see along the road. Make sure it's available even in modern trade, the Spar, ShopRite, so that you can reach different target audience at different points, right? So I'm looking at the 6 P's now, right? So I've talked about the product, I've talked about price, I've talked about place, right? Promotions, right? So what kind of media mix or relevant channels would the target audience be looking at to even know that this product now exists? And we had to also use data and insights to ensure that the right message is put out, so if we look at the consumer funnel, it starts from awareness, right? How do you create awareness of this new product to the consumers? What media mix is being used? The next step is consideration. So why do you get your consumer? So they've heard about the product. So why should I pick you versus the next person? And that's where your reason to believe comes in. So what separates you? What is different? What is so special about you that I should pick you over the next brand, right? And then the next step is conversion. So I've heard about you, I've considered you, right? How do I get that consumer to pick me at the point of purchase? That's where the price that I talked about previously now comes into play. So competitive pricing. So how am I priced versus my competitor? And also promotional offers. So what am I offering? Sometimes you can have tactical offers, short bursts, to get consumers to purchase you. And then you also have the process and the place and the like. So yeah, so that's basically how we were able to ensure that evap that's evaporated milk, that's the liquid milk, is available and accessible to all Nigerians.
Well, at least now we know how that came to be. Please, a round of applause.
Thank you.
So, because of time, I was gonna ask. Well, maybe I'll ask this later or come back to it if we get the chance. All right. So let me go to Chibuike now. So you do programmatic advertising, and all of this, no matter what happens, everything lives or dies with conversion. Right? It has to convert. So in Nigeria particularly, can you give us a category or a use case where the AI-driven targeting outperformed the traditional media formats? Has that even happened?
I think you're shaking a table. There's been a school of thought of people that say AI is it going to take our jobs? So you're still shaking that table. Yes, there have been use cases where AI was used in decisioning as to who gets to see the adverts, and especially for performance campaigns. And we always shared between performance campaign and awareness campaigns, and you will see especially brands in the betting categories and fintech, and they're less patient and they don't have all the time to say you're gonna do build awareness and all that. So we have used AI to make decision as to when is the person likely going to respond to this advert, and what creative is he going to respond to. Now we build that as a model into the engine that displays the advert. Now at the point when you are watching a football, it knows that that is the best time to show you an advert. But it also shows you an advert because it knows that you have many of the betting companies, about 5 of them on your app, on your phone. So it shows you the one that compares all of them to give you that this particular one is giving you better odds. And that helps to give. Now, historically, we've seen that it outperforms when you manually do it. Manually is going to take you quite a long time to do that, but AI crunches all of that to quite an efficient time to deploy that, and then it gives a better analysis as well, because based on the analysis it keeps improving on itself. When a human being is probably going to wake up, you overwork a human being that tries to compete with an AI.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Please, a round of applause. So I think that kind of demystifies the idea that if it has happened, it has happened. That's the answer. AI has outperformed, and there is a use case in
Speed,
terms of
accuracy, and efficiency.
Nice. Thank you. Please, another round of applause. So, Godson, I said something earlier about Mama Chinedu who sells on the streets, right? So we see a lot of informal distributors, and your data that serves FMCG, particularly in the supply chain. The question now is, have your system, or even from insights that you have, has AI improved how FMCG clients are able to reach this demand rather than just measure it? Because right now we're still struggling with, okay, if I see 4 people selling on this street, I see the brand they sell the most, we just take that as insight and run with it. Has AI helped influence, made these FMCG clients that you have been able to make the better decision to control the demand even, and not just go, okay, we see the result, thank you very much?
Okay. Thanks very much. That speaks to the supply side of supply chain, right? So, and from that point, the last mile is usually a salesman who, of course, services these outlets, and there has been quite a lot of AI at play in this. But in an African context, what I try to say, a lot of the brands or businesses in this market are in tier one. There are 3 tiers, right? There is RTM 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. 1.0 is when you are investing in the assets that acquires the data that would help your AI run. 2.0 is when you're using analytics, you're layering analytics on top of that data to drive things like dashboards, decision support systems, and stuff like that. Now, 3.0 is where you go hands off and start deploying agents to take decision on the fly while you're sleeping, right? So a lot of the businesses in our market are between 1.0 and maybe some early 2.0. So I'm going to tilt your question a little bit to his answer, which is it's looking like AI will take our jobs, and these jobs will disappear. AI will make it easy to do a lot of these things with less people. But I would say something that is very disruptive here.
Okay.
I don't think the question to ask is whether AI will take your job or not. The question should be, as humans, we should now begin to examine the definition of a job. It's very controversial. What is
What
a
defines a
job
job?
in today's market, right? 20 years ago, there was no such thing as influencers, right? But today, someone just by his following sitting at home can make money. Would you consider that in traditional sense a job? So we're heading into a time where consumption in itself, you'll be paid to consume at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be paid. I mean, he in the art space can tell you that I can pay you to click away for the rest of the day. So
Yeah.
the question then is, the use of AI will be the best guys are those who are able to ask the right question of AI. Now that you are washed with data, what do you do with it? So to your question, Mama Ngozi on the corner streets buying pattern is driven by so many more things outside AI. First, her cash cycle. When during the week is she cash positive, right? Your delivery timeline, how frequently she buys, how much she trusts you, your competition, how much of these insights do you have? So when I say businesses are between 1.0 and 2.0, it's at the point where you are consuming your own data and maybe that from research organizations.
Insights,
Yeah. So in the future is we're hoping that there's a lot more comparative data where you can see what your competitors are doing in real time and then decide what happens. Because Mama Ngozi is the line between you and the last customer.
So realistically, what you're saying, at least what I'm getting out of this is, not necessarily, because you can't control the demand at a certain tier. You can only control the demand at a certain tier.
No, I think the real answer is in determining, you first determine what am I trying to solve.
To solve.
That's the first. If you determine what you're trying to solve, then you now decide where to look for the right data, because data is always in front of you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. Simpa, I know our time is up, so try to see how to run through this. I think in terms of the information available, right, both from your data and the external data that I believe you collect, my final question to you would be, what do you think is needed for the broader ecosystem, right? How do we genuinely start seeing data influence demand realistically? Because you talked about how the data you're collecting is not always the same with the data that's available publicly. How can we change that where it's not just on paper, but it's true to markets?
Thank you. Um, so first off, a lot of people believe that AI is the big innovation, right? Um, I see things slightly different. I think that for us as Africans and Nigerians, the innovation is actually not AI, but it's access, right? And AI is just the vehicle to access, right? So if you really ask almost everybody how they're using AI, it's mostly access, to some of that. So we need to collect data more. We need to have more central system. Government has to support all of these. And also with collection of data, you also have to take into cognizance data privacy, data protection, and all of that, which a lot of organizations don't really do any of those things. So I would say that overall, the next 3 steps would be collect a lot of data, regulate it very well, and also educate people, like consumers, on the data sets that we're collecting, how we're using it, and how they have their rights to it. So last thing also is, earlier you said something about we lying a lot. The reality why we lie is actually not that we like to lie, but it's a trust thing. Like we don't trust
the
system because we also don't really have enough information, right? When we see small patterns, like he said, where I have the conversation about swimming, randomly with a friend, and I open my Instagram and they're teaching me how to swim. I want to toss my phone away because why on earth are you of all of all times, so we don't trust how our data is used because we don't really read in this part of the world. So nobody goes through that consent. Nobody goes through, like, if your data is being shared to third parties, nobody goes through all of that. So people need to be enlightened, have that information, understand how it's used. Then hopefully that would create like a better relationship.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. Thank you. I think I want to ask the same question. Yeah, I think the same question for you. On a more broader spectrum now for you. Do you think policymakers, investors, do you think they really play a role? And maybe if we're okay with this, we can take this one line all the way through, right? What role do they play to change things? But at the base of that question, I think what I want to ask is, are we at a place where we should start regulating data, especially if it's supposed to train and improve AI so it can be custom to us, right? Are we at a place where we can start doing that?
Yes, we definitely are, to answer directly. And I know in Nigeria here, we already have a lot of efforts to regulate data, especially the data protection, the Nigeria data protection laws. And there's a lot of enforcement going on right now where everybody is required to comply to a certain level with these data protection laws because, AI is definitely like an open window to the world. That's the honest truth. And you're feeding AI all this information, all this data, and sometimes the user doesn't really know how to properly restrict what AI can use or not use with the data and now that you even have a lot of autonomous systems coming into play with agentic AI, RAG systems, especially with people in sensitive industries like the fintech space, data protection is definitely very important at this stage. So efforts have been made and are ongoing, but I feel that it's just the beginning. There's going to be a lot more learning on the policy end because sometimes governments don't really realize the need for regulation until certain things happen. and certain incidents happen. But I think we're doing our best here in this part of the world to be prepared, and we're also watching what's going on in other parts of the world to make sure that everybody who uses AI's data is safe. A lot of enterprises and businesses now are also trying to see how they can incorporate and start using AI internally. As we have heard earlier, obviously there's so much potential in what AI can do, especially with the efficiency level, with the automation of tasks and processes within many businesses. And that's entire businesses exposing most of their data to AI models. Another thing that I think is we have to look at data sovereignty.
Nice.
We definitely have to look at data sovereignty, because if I ask anybody in the audience right now what AI models they use, you'd hear ChatGPT, Claude. We do not yet have our own mainstream models here in Nigeria, and that's necessary because of different reasons. Apart from just data sovereignty, too, most of these models are driven by LLMs. LLMs are large language models. In Africa, because of the lower level of infrastructure that we have, electricity, data, we have so many challenges that we're dealing with, and we're facing in our use of AI. I would say we need to start looking at small language models. So a small language model is something tailored to just a certain use case or scenario or industry. So for example, people in the FMCG space don't really need a model that understands all of biology and space. But most models that we have understand almost everything. They're like all-round oracles. So we need to start tailoring models to our own use, fine-tuning models to our own use that works for our economy, our reality here in Nigeria. And I think overall, we would be able to use AI much better with more protected data.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much. Please, can we give everyone a round of applause? I like to do one lines. One line, less than 20 words. Just one line, less than 20 words. I'll be counting. The data to demand process. Do we see it working? Yes, no. If it's not working, this is what we should do. So we want to take it, everyone. One line, less than 20 words. Yeah. Yeah. No, from you, yeah.
Yes, it's starting to work, but we have a lot more work to do to make sure we can maximize
Drive
the
demand.
use of the demand that we get from the data.
Awesome. Same question. The data to demand process, is data truly driving demand? Yes or no for you? And if it is or isn't, what do we do next? What's the next thing?
I mean, yes, for sure. It's obviously driving the demand. But also like almost everybody has spoken about all what we need to do, right? So we probably need
20 words. Yeah, 10.
Okay, well, so one word would be yes. I mean, yes, for sure. It's driving the demand. But like you said, we need to put in more work. Everybody needs to come together, private sector, the government regulatory bodies. And also there's one part that is missing is like we're not building enough in Africa. We are consumers, but we need to also start to
You're at 40. Well, thank you very much. Please let's give him a round of applause. All right.
It's beginning to work. Not it's beginning to work. It's kicked off, and we're either gonna play catcher or we're gonna play a lead role. But I believe from being a catcher, we're gonna play a lead role. But it's beginning to work.
It's better to
working.
start than just say, we're behind.
Yeah,
Agree.
no, I used to tell people that aim for the sky, get all your resources to pump to the sky. But if you get halfway, you have
It's
achieved.
something. All right.
Okay. Yes, definitely. It's working for me, at least in FMCG. I would say that what we need to do more is have a balance of data and human truth.
And human
Yeah.
truth. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, so for me, it's a yes. However, it's driving both demand and supply equally. And then regulation is going to be very important in determining how far this goes. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we've come to the end. Thank you all very much for participating with us. Can we give a round of applause to everyone that was here?